The broadcast is now starting. All attendees.
Welcome to today's webinar. Take the guesswork out of A/B testing. Know what to test and when. We will start in 2 minutes. Welcome to today's webinar. Take the guesswork out of A/B testing. Know what to test and when. Today you will join two of the most respected companies in online marketing to show exactly how to get the big wins. Join the conversation on Twitter during the presentation with the hashtag CRO. A few housekeeping items before we get started. There's no need to take notes. This presentation deck will be available to you after the webinar. Questions and comments can be asked in real time by using the questions pane, and there'll be a QA session at the end. Stick around to the end of the webinar to get the details of free limited time offers for you. Your presenters today are Chris Goward, founder and CEO of Widerfunnel, and Lars Lofgren, marketing analyst at KISSmetrics. Chris is a marketing strategist and entrepreneur since he began his first web design business in 1994. He developed Widerfunnel's methodologies, including the Lift model and Kaizen, and is in demand globally as a speaker. He also has an upcoming conversion optimization book by Wiley. You should sign up to the Widerfunnel blog at widerfunnel.com/blog to be the first in line and have a chance to win a copy when the book is released.
Great. Thank you, Nancy. Excellent. And really happy to be here today with Lars. And I just have one slide here to talk about who Widerfunnel is. Some of you we may not have met yet, and happy to do so today. But so you understand the context that we're coming from. Widerfunnel is a conversion optimization agency since 2007. That's all we do is conversion rate optimization. And when we do that, I always get this question at the end, so I want to be clear that when we do that, we actually do everything. From creating a conversion increase in profit, the design and copywriting and full service testing, and landing page optimization is a part of that. We specialize in advanced testing for complex businesses and high traffic companies, and all of our clients so far have had conversion rate lift of between 10% to over 750% for every multi-test client. And there's a variety of clients we work with in all kinds of industries, as well as from e-commerce, lead gen, SaaS model, subscription, all kinds of companies. And so that's all I want to talk about for that. I want to really welcome Lars Lofgren here from KISSmetrics. To grow their business by using analytics with KISSmetrics. He regularly writes posts for the KISSmetrics blog. He's also Google Analytics individual qualified, and he's got some great content to talk about today that's really rubber meets the road stuff that you can apply today. So welcome, Lars.
Thanks, Chris. Just to give you guys a quick overview of what KISSmetrics does. What that means is it ties all the data back to individual customers as opposed to like page views, visitor sessions. This way you can see every action or every purchase and every visit, from the very first traffic source that brings someone to you to every purchase they've made along the way, every marketing material they've looked at, every feature they've used, to get a complete picture of what your customers are doing. And the real benefit of this is that it allows you to get the ROI of your marketing, every channel, because you know which marketing is bringing customers to you for the very first time. And this is true for even hard to track channels like social media. And at the end of the day, since we know what our customers are doing and who they are, we're able to figure out what they want the most so that we can delight them and keep them coming back over and over again. So I'm pretty excited about this webinar, and I've got some great stuff for you in just a second.
Great. Thanks, Lars. And let's get right into the content. Lars will come back in a bit to talk about how KISSmetrics does testing. First of all, I want to start with setting the stage for what we're seeing in the conversion optimization space. And what's interesting is we're seeing an increased focus on conversion optimization. More and more, year over year, companies are realizing that they need to improve their conversion rate. Their dissatisfaction with their conversion rate is growing. Either quite or very dissatisfied is growing year over year. And at the same time, conversion rate improvement is getting harder. Year over year, 5% more companies are saying no, their conversion rate has not improved in the past year. Now, so that may be sort of a depressing combination of metrics, right? It's a bigger focus, but it's also getting harder to see improvement. Now, the good news is we know conversion optimization works. It works if you do it right. The problem is that a lot of people are just doing it wrong, okay? And I can only speak from the experience of wider funnel, but what we're seeing is average conversion rate lifts of 23% for e-commerce and 49% for lead gen for conversion rate improvement when companies are following a conversion optimization strategy. So these are wider funnel's average client results. Let's start with a little example. So this is EA Sports, and so we've got a quick case study. Right one, and then we'll talk about how to get these results. So this was a situation where they had a huge new game release, and these are very important, of course, for EA. They needed to maximize this short launch window they had to hit their sign-up targets and convert into more beta game signups. Okay, so what we did is analyze that sign-up path, and we did some optimizing on the landing pages, optimizing on the whole sign-up flow. And what I'm going to show you today is one of the tests that we ran on the sign-up flow. So here's variation A. This is a variation we created and this is the first step of the three-step flow, where it says register to play for free, log into your EA account, and you put your email and password in, or don't have an EA account yet, you can create one there, and then you continue through the steps. So that's variation A. Variation B, we added in the same page, a three-step indicator showing the steps that you have to do to get your free gameplay. And then the third variation, variation C, was a reorganization of the fields, where they had side-by-side fields with the labels inside the field. So, you know, these seem perhaps like minor changes in usability. Let's take a look at what happened. Now, we've got three variations. What we're going to do first is get you to vote on what you think won. Which one was it? Was it A, without the steps, that just said log into your EA account? Was it B, progressive steps that had the steps indicator? Or C, the steps indicators plus the horizontal form fields? So Nancy's going to open up the poll, and you can guess which one you think won. Was it A, no steps, B, progress steps, or C, steps and horizontal fields? All right, we've got the votes coming in. Don't be shy. There will not be incentives for this. Unlike many of our tests with our clients when we have a Starbucks poll, we don't have them going today. So, all right, let's take a look at the results of the poll. Interesting. Variation B and C are neck and neck out there, 42 and 45% of the votes, and A is the sad stepchild. Okay, well, let's take a look at what actually happened. We'll look at the results. The survey says, hang on, let me click on the results. There we go. Oh, variation A won. That had a 12.8% increase in the sign-up conversion rate over the control page. Now, I didn't show you the control page, of course, but these were the 3 of the variations that we had tested against each other, and it turned out that one performed the best. Now, what's interesting here is increased your sign-up rate by 12.8%. But the learning here is that even small changes in user interactions can make a big difference in conversion rates. I mean, how would you like 12% more customers like this? But first, I'm going to invite Lars to talk about how KISSmetrics plans A/B tests for their own websites, and then we'll get into talking about the strategy we take as well.
Thanks, Chris. And you know, when I've worked with a number of different companies, and especially we've seen this here at KISSmetrics, is that when we if you're following marketing blogs and you're listening to speakers and all this stuff, you see endless lists of stuff and elements that you need to be testing on your own site, called action buttons, headlines, photos. The list goes on and on and on. So how do you prioritize and find the and we can't really just start randomly testing stuff, because the results that we receive from that are subpar at best. We start moving really slowly. You know, a lot of our tests, the results include or the difference is going to be so small that it really doesn't justify the effort put into deciding what to test, putting up the test, tracking everything. So how do we find the tests that actually matter? Well, here at KISSmetrics, we use a 3-step process to help us find really big wins. And the first step of this is getting qualitative insights. This is basically just customer feedback. So we reach out to our customers, and we get to know them at a very, very deep level. And when we do this and we start talking to our customers, we're able to pick out major trends. We know that there's major problems that we're not addressing, either with our product or in the space in general. Or maybe we realize that the sign-up flow isn't nearly as clear as it should be. So we're able to find major problems that need to be addressed. And then we can move into the second step, and that's predicting how to improve. Okay, we know the sign-up flow is very confusing and it's not intuitive. So let's focus on that area. Let's redesign it, and we'll predict that this solution will actually help people a lot more than the current solution. And finally, the last step is running that A/B test and confirming our prediction with data and making sure that customers are actually behaving the way that we think they would behave. So it's a little different process, and the A/B test comes at the end. But the real question in all this is, where do we get that customer feedback? How do we know that we're getting good feedback from our customers, and how can we do it in such a way that we're getting reliable feedback day in and day out? Well, I've included 5 of my favorite places to get customer feedback. And the first one, by far, is reaching out directly to customers. I do this all the time. In fact, I did a bunch of interviews with customers yesterday. I had a couple more today. And I love sitting down with customers, either if they're local, taking them out to coffee, or jumping on Skype with them, and really getting to know them. What are their major problems? What is their workflow like? How are they currently solving their problems? And this gives me, there's no better way to get a deep understanding of a customer than speaking to them directly. But another good way to do it, another way that scales a little better, is with feedback boxes. A lot of sites have these things, have little feedback plugins on the side of their site that customers can access very easily. In KISSmetrics, we actually have a feedback box at the bottom of every page of our app. It's unobtrusive, it's out of the way, but as soon as someone hits a problem or they're inconvenienced in any way, something doesn't quite make any sense, they can send us a quick note. And it fires off an email to me, the entire product team, even our co-founders. So we can keep a really good idea of what's annoying our customers and what's not really resonating right now. Another option, and this is a really popular option, everybody does this, is just basic surveys. The most popular tool out there is SurveyMonkey, and this is a good way to get a ton of feedback in a really short time period. But you want to be careful, don't over-rely on these. A lot of companies, when they start trying to get customer feedback, they'll do exclusively surveys. But surveys won't give you the depth of understanding that some of these other methods will. So use them, but don't dive into user activity from your analytics. If you're using customer analytics, something like KISSmetrics, you can pull up individual customers and see everything they've done, the order that they did it, so you know what brought them to our site that day. Was it an email? From there, we start to get a good idea of what they're trying to do and how they were trying to accomplish it. And the last method that we use is usability tests. And these are just, you basically have someone complete or use a feature or maybe sign up for your product, and then you record the entire session. If you want a tool to help you out with this, a really good one is usertesting.com. They'll have people complete any task that you want on your site. They'll give you a recording, usability problems on your site. So if you're building a new sign-up flow and you want to make sure that everything makes sense, go ahead, do a few usability tests, and that'll come up with the problems really quickly. It's a good way to kind of double-check everything. But in KISSmetrics, the way that KISSmetrics kind of fits into A/B testing is that it really helps you make the right decisions with confidence. And the reason it does this is it's able to keep track of everybody that moves through any version of your test over the long term. So when most A/B Optimizely, when you start using these things, they usually only track the next step. Even if you're building kind of an in-house A/B testing tool, if you run kind of a sign-up flow and you're testing different sign-up flows, you might only look at the sign-up conversion rate. Well, the problem is, and I run into this on a regular basis, that when you run A/B tests, what can happen is you increase the conversion rate at the next step, the immediate step, so sign-ups in this case, but you lower the conversion rate of the entire funnel, or you actually acquire customers that aren't as profitable. But when you use something like a customer analytics platform, you're able to track people over the long term and say, okay, we know which customers went through which version of our test. Let's see which ones. When you finally pick a version to stick with, that you're actually growing your business instead of actually slowing your growth by accident. In the case of KISSmetrics, we have built integrations with Visual Website Optimizer and Optimizely. If you're using either of those tools, it's very easy to set up the integration, and pretty much set it up once, then you don't have to worry about it ever again. And then you're able to track your customers over the long term and make sure that you have solid data whenever you're using or whenever you're running an A/B test, multivariate test of any kind.
Awesome. Thanks, Lars. It's a great run-through on the process that they're using and some good tips there for especially gathering qualitative data. So I'm going to talk about how we approach conversion optimization at wider funnel and how you can take some of these processes and learnings as well to apply it to your company and really get some dramatic conversion rate and revenue lift. So first of all, I want to talk about, often in presentations, I'll talk about some of the misconceptions that are happening in conversion optimization. Too much emphasis on multivariate testing or usability testing or other things that don't give you or before and after testing that don't give you the best results, as opposed to controlled A/B testing to actually verify the validity of all of the qualitative and other sources of developing hypotheses. But really, I wanted to make time enough in the presentation to get into some of that process stuff. So I removed some of that, but I thought it was important, first of all, to set at the high level how we view conversion optimization as a strategy. And I believe conversion optimization is the intersection of three things. I believe it's, first of all, persuasion marketing, where the conversion strategist understands how to create motivation in the prospect's mind. This is all about the value proposition, how you present the value proposition with clarity and removing distraction. The second component is experience design, where you create a wonderful experience that they want to participate in. So once they have the motivation, you're actually facilitating that action with minimal barriers so they can flow through easily. And the third component is scientific method, where we actually test the hypotheses within those other two areas. And what's interesting is we're seeing people coming into conversion optimization from different perspectives. Some people come from the marketing perspective, and they think that conversion optimization is all about persuasion. And that's just a limited view. Other people come from usability, and they might think that it's all about checking off the user experience boxes, and if you follow the rules, then everyone will work, and you'll maximize your conversion rate. And a lot of people are skipping testing altogether. But by taking a holistic view of all three components, you really have the potential to get a maximum conversion rate lift. So I'm going to show you some of the frameworks we're using and how this relates directly to your website. So how to get the best results is really the question, right? That's why you're here today. It's all about one thing. I'm going to share the secret right now about how to get the best results. It's all about creating powerful hypotheses. And that's really what all of these qualitative methods are about. The usability testing, the customer surveys, the feedback loops, all of these things are about finding those nuggets of insights that will create hypotheses. And then how do you actually test those? I'm going to show you the framework that Widerfellow uses every day to analyze the particular experiences that we prioritize to improve. And first of all, I want to show you that these frameworks are working in all industries. The reason I show you this is to show that regardless of where you're at, if you're at a software company, or if you have a SaaS or subscription model, if you're in lead gen, or you're catalog e-commerce or single product e-commerce, whatever you're in, B2B, B2C, chances are we've applied this model to work in that industry. These are just some of the clients that Widerfellow is working with. And I'm going to show you how you can apply it to your website as well. Okay, so first of all, an overview of the LIFT model. This is the framework that we're using, and I'm going to show you how this works on a website. And what this shows, the LIFT model shows the 6 conversion factors that impact your conversion rate. And within each of these factors, you can create hypotheses to test to get the best results. And the first and the core of it is your value proposition. And there are a lot of different definitions for value proposition, but we like to think of it simply as an equation that goes on in the prospect's mind between taking action on one side and the perceived benefits on the other. And if the perceived benefits outweigh the perceived costs, you have a positive equation, and they'll have motivation to take action. So if your value proposition is strong, you'll have a high potential to improve your conversion rate. There are other factors that surround the value proposition, and you can actually test within value proposition as well. I won't get into that today, but you can test on product augmentations and offers and credibility indicators. All of those things affect value proposition. But then the other factors that surround it are just as important. So for example, we look at relevance. That's the second factor. That's the relevance to the visitor's needs and the relevance to their source media, to their mind frame. Where are they coming from? A simple tactic in relevance is to look at your list of incoming keywords to your landing pages and to your website. And do those words that are reflected in the keywords, are they reflected on the landing page? Are they right there in the headline, or are they prominent to create that scent trail of relevance? So we test in that as well. The next factor is clarity. And that includes several components: clarity of the eye flow, clarity of the imagery, clarity of the copywriting, clarity of the call to action. All of those factors can be tested and need to be. And then that's anything that creates uncertainty in the prospect's mind about taking action on that particular page. So are there indicators that are causing questions in their mind? For example, we have heard a lot of consultants talk about security indicators. if you pay for these things, you should put them as prominently as possible. A lot of consultants are out there giving advice that they believe is best based on their expert opinion. But how much of it has actually been tested? Well, we've tested these things. We tested security indicators, for example, and in one e-commerce site that we tested, we showed that putting it too prominently on the website near the call to action actually reduced their sales by 2%. So what was happening is that these security indicators were actually creating anxiety by answering questions that they weren't asking at that moment. So think about the user's perspective and test those elements that are the commonly held so-called best practices, and you'll find a lot of times you may be surprised. Another factor is distraction. That's any lack of focus on the particular page and what the action needs to be. And we saw that, for example, in the EA Sports example earlier, that some of these additional elements, like even the steps indicators, and that's a good example of a best practice, right? Everyone says if you've got multiple steps, you should have indicators of where they are in the process. Well, in fact, that's not necessarily the case. We've tested several times. In some cases, it works. In other cases, no, it's actually reduced conversions, like the EA Sports example. So reducing distractions is a very important one. And the final factor is urgency. So why should I act now? What's in it for me? And why should I act before I flip to your competitor's example in the next tab? Okay, so let's take a look at another example of how this works, how we apply this to a particular scenario, and then how you can apply it as well. So this is an example of an online survey, actually, Zoomerang. And what happened, they came to us and they needed to improve their sign-up conversion rate. They had a freemium survey subscription model. So a certain percentage would upgrade to the paid version. But the problem was that very few subscribers were signing up directly for the paid versions. They needed to really shorten their revenue cycle. Now, shortly after we tested with them, they were acquired by SurveyMonkey, so we were happy to be involved in setting them up for that, for success. So the goal for this example was to increase signups for free and paid signups. And we tested several different places throughout their website and conversion funnels in a conversion optimization strategy. I'm going to show you one example. Well, what can you do to improve the conversion rate? Well, an initial look of the home page, you might think, well, yeah, the button's prominent. Succinct value proposition bullet points. What are we going to do? How do we improve this? Well, that's what we do every day, is to find problems. And so we looked at this page and analyzed it through the lift model with the team and found several factors. And you may relate to some of these. So take a look at what we was used on this page was, really wasn't adding value to the call to action. And if anything, it was adding distraction. Some distraction, they had competing calls to actions. Well, so while they're clear, the calls to action were competing with each other and confusing visitors on which one they should choose. So that's a distraction point. There's competing sets of feature points. So really, they've got two sets here for the free and the pro account. There's low contrast copy that reduces headlines in two main columns. So the eye flow was distracted. There's some anxiety here. The sign up implies commitment in that call to action. And really, do people want to commit to something? They just want to try it out for free. There's little credibility indicators, even though this is a well-known survey tool, had a lot of traction in the market. There's different link treatments presented for different points. So some are blue link treatments, others aren't. Content is intangible. It requires imagination, effort, and this is more about the actual copywriting that we looked at. And plans and pricing are not prominent in the body area. And I don't know why we have multiple steps that are labeled 8, but for some reason my numbers got mixed up here. The eye flow and information hierarchy is unclear. Now, these were just a few of the points. We had lists of points that we identified throughout the conversion funnel. But what I want to show to you, the important part, is that using a framework to analyze the page allows you to categorize the ideas and put yourself in the perspective of the visitor. And that's what we do every day here with our strategists, and you can do the same thing. The next step is to turn those weaknesses into strengths. And that's how we create powerful hypotheses, is that we say, for example, if there's a clarity point that says the image value is to the call to action is unclear, right? That image wasn't adding a lot of value. Well, a hypothesis then is by removing the confusing image, we'll lift the signups, or replacing it perhaps. And then every lift point is converted into a corresponding hypothesis. And that's where the art of the strategist comes in. Now we've got this list of hypotheses. What do you do, right? We've got some data. We've got an analysis. We've got hypotheses. How do we prioritize what to test? Well, the strategist will then have to determine which of these are important to isolate, to really understand and gather marketing insights, and which ones should be clustered with a swing for the fences variation. That's what we call a variable cluster test versus an isolation test. Quite a few for them. And in this case, we were showing an isolation. What we did, and this was on top of some variable clusters that we'd run as well. Variation A, we've got a form in the center, headline, 3 steps on the left, value proposition on the right, and variation B, we've got the exact same layout, and what we've done is, whereas in variation A, to view the plans, you have to click the View Plans and Pricing button. In variation B, we've got the plans and pricing down below in a chart. So now we're actually going to open a poll and let you guess which one won. So you can go ahead and vote now. And was it variation A, the sign up with the reduced distraction, simple page? Variation B with the addition of the pricing chart. Which one won? All right, we've got the votes coming in. The majority have voted. Vote in the little poll on the screen. All right, let's take a look at what you said. Let's look at the results of the poll. Wow, neck and neck. Look at that. It's almost tied. Variation B slightly edging out. Now imagine yourself, of course, you're sitting in your company and your designer has come in and they're presenting the concepts for your new landing page or home page or conversion funnel. How do you choose which one goes live, right? A lot of you have probably heard of the HIPPO method for choosing. That's where the highest paid person's opinion rules, and the HIPPO will point at the one they like best, and that's the one that goes live. A lot of people, I've noticed, use another method called the black turtleneck method, where the person in the room who's wearing the black turtleneck and the sunglasses in the boardroom, right, they're the ones that point at the one that goes live, and their opinion works. Well, fortunately, Zoomerang used the scientific method of actually testing what happened. So let's take a look at what worked. The result, oh, this is a surprise. They actually were tied. These ones each had a 23% sign-up conversion rate lift. But wait, there's more to this story. And as Lars said, you don't want to just track conversion rate. Well, variation B had a 58% lift in revenue. And what was happening is that the value of these customers, because more people were signing up for paid immediately, and tracking those visitors increased the value of those visitors by 8%. So that's a marketing insight that they can now apply to all of their landing pages and test throughout their market. They don't need to get more people straight into free. Let's see if we can get people straight into paid signups. So that's an important component of conversion optimization, is aiming for those marketing insights. Now, and I want to share a number with you that's important. It's 200%. That's the value of a This is a study that eConsultancy did where they looked at companies that were doing conversion optimization. And what they found, those approach to improving conversion rate, to increase approach gives you 200% by the traditional, random throwing a designer in the room to come up with variations and test them. That's not conversion optimization. Conversion optimization requires a structured approach. Now, at Waterfall, we've been developing a structured approach since 2007, and all we do is conversion optimization. And what I'm going to share with you now is the 7-step testing process we use, which is part of our structured approach. Also, in addition to the 7 steps, I'll get to that, we start by developing a conversion optimization strategy, and I highly recommend you do this. Take a step before you get into just jumping into the pages and testing, that you start by creating a plan. Now, we call ours the Kaizen plan. You can call yours whatever you want, but it includes a structured process for I'm going to show you now a framework that we use as part of the Kaizen planning process to create that prioritization. It's called the PI prioritization framework. Okay, and what this looks at is the 3 factors that you can use to prioritize where to focus your energy and where to test. And this is important for optimizing the optimization process. So the first is the potential, where you look at each of your pages, your page templates, and identify the potential for improvement. Essentially, you're answering the question, how crappy is this page, right? And you do that by looking at your heuristic analysis and your voice of customer and understanding where are the problem areas in your conversion funnel. The importance of each page is also important. And we do that by looking at the traffic volume and the cost of those pages. And then the ease of implementation is the third. And includes, which, not surprisingly often rules out the home page, where everyone has their finger in the pie, and it becomes more politically difficult to run tests. So by looking at these 3 factors, we can then rank each page and each test opportunity based on the 3 factors of potential, importance, and ease, and come up with a number that ranks them in terms of priority. So that's part of the Kaizen plan, and that's a quick takeaway that you can use as well to prioritize your pages. And then for each of the pages, I'll show you why these steps are important to be in the order they are. The first is the lift analysis. And we've talked about the lift analysis, and that's about using a framework to analyze that particular step from the perspective of the prospect, and then convert those into hypotheses and flesh out the rest of the steps of the test. Now, what's important here is that we're looking at creating hypotheses and then creating something that we call the funnel experiment map, which is really the test design document. And what you want to note here is that we've gone through 3 steps without involving a designer or a copywriter. That's because the best results don't come just from random design and tactical changes. They come from identifying the conversion problems and being strategy-led. And then the rest of the work is simply fleshing out how those wireframes and design and strategic hypotheses will match the graphic standards. So we do graphic design copywriting, technical installation, launching the experiment, and then the 7th step is one of the most important, and that's the results analysis. As we saw with the Zoomerang example, as well as the EA example, when we do the results analysis, there are often marketing insights that we can gather that can then lead into even more important hypotheses to test in following rounds. And it can lead to insights that go throughout the rest of the website. We've got another case study that we're going to release in a couple of weeks, and I'll give you a preview of that. It's for Iron Mountain, where we were showing an ongoing conversion optimization strategy and how building on hypotheses from previous tests actually led to a 400% conversion rate lift on a landing page. And if you sign up for the blog, you'll get an invitation to join that webinar as well when we present that in a few weeks. So that's an example of a structured testing process that you can use as well. And I'll leave you with one more question before we get into the offers that we promised. And that's, what are you waiting for? Because every marketing presentation needs a picture of a cat, apparently. So let's get into the offers. As promised, we have 2 special offers for you today just for your webinar attendance. And first of all, are you interested in increasing your conversion rate for your landing pages or conversion funnel? We have 10 time slots available that we've made available for a wider funnel consultation for free. And that's scheduled on a first-come, first-served basis. So you want to grab your iPhone or your email. I'm going to show you how to do that right now. You can email hello@widerfunnel.com. Tell us the URL of the web page you'd like evaluated. If you've got a minimum 30,000 unique visitors per month, you can qualify. And these will fill up fast within a few minutes. So make sure that you send that right away. Email hello@widerfunnel.com, and we'll get you lined up for a free landing page or any page evaluation. If you want to look at a template on your website, that's fine as well. Go ahead and email that. And I know Lars also has an offer from KISSmetrics, so I'll let him explain how that works.
Yeah, so I'm sure many of you guys know Neil Patel. He's a co-founder of KISSmetrics, and he actually wants to help several of you personally with a one-on-one consultation. This is going to be a 30-minute consultation, and we've managed to get 10 slots of free time of his. So for 10 of you, we're going to hook you up with a free one-on-one consultation with Neil Patel. He's advised companies like Zappos, Amazon, and eBay, and he even grew TechCrunch's traffic by 30%. And TechCrunch is a massive website, so that's pretty impressive. And not only is he a co-founder with KISSmetrics, but he also co-founded Crazy Egg. So in order to qualify for this, I need you guys to email actually one of my teammates, Nemo, and his address, his email is nchu@kissmetrics.com. All you have to in the subject line. That's it. You don't have to write anything else. Send that email off. That'll get you qualified. And then in the next day or two, we're going to randomly select people that have submitted their names into this offer, and we're going to open up those 10 slots. So really excited about this offer. So is Neil, and he's really stoked to help you guys with your own business. So I hope you guys send out a quick email, and we can start working with you.
Awesome. So now we have a few minutes here to open up for questions. And we've got some questions that are coming in. So Nancy's just reviewing what we have, and we can answer some of those. So let's take a look at what we've got here. Okay, this might be a question, Lars, you might want to look at. How early in a product life cycle is it possible to get useful feedback? How many users do you need before you can reliably get decent insights? So this might be more of a product development question, something that KISSmetrics might be involved in as well, Lars.
Yeah, really, we start talking to customers on day one, so as soon as possible. If we have a new idea on a feature or a new product or a new app of any kind, before we've even figured out what that app is going to look like, we start talking to customers. And really, all you really need to know in order to start talking to people is which problem are you going to go after. So maybe you're maybe you're in the data space and you want to solve something with conversion optimization. So go talk to people that do conversion optimization. What problems do they have? What tools are they using, and why aren't those tools the ideal solution? What's missing? So it's really, you really want to talk to people as soon as possible, and that's going to help you find a product that's actually worth selling, that people really want to buy, and it's going to help you find the right market for the right product. So it's never too soon.
Right, great. Now when it comes to testing, you can test with relatively low volumes, but what you want to do, there are a few principles to make sure that you get good results from your tests, especially low volume tests. The first is to test dramatically. So try dramatically different approaches to your landing pages and to your ads to find the value proposition approach that moves the needle in terms of conversions and revenue. and also test very few variations. So we'll look at the traffic levels when we plan a test to try and complete the test within 2 to 3 weeks in market. And so that's a function of the conversion rate and the volume of traffic. And the more traffic you have, the more variations you can test within an A/B test. So if you've got very low traffic, just start with an A/B test, simple 2 variations. Usually we're testing an AVN, which the N just means any number of variations where we might be testing quite a few. And so the more traffic, the more you can do that. And there's calculators online to determine how many you can test. So there's another question here. When you look at conversion rate, do you look at the conversion for the given landing page or the total conversion rate if the user clicks through to another part of the site from the landing page? And that's a good question. That's often a misunderstanding. When a lot of people are doing tests, in fact, there are consultants that I've talked to who are doing tests, and they're just optimizing for the click on the button on that landing page. And unfortunately, that's misleading, and it can lead to very skewed results and misleading results. As we talked about today, you want to track as close to revenue as possible and as far down the funnel and keep track of those visitors and prospects all the way through to the sale and the average order value if you can. Because if you're tracking on those small activities, we call them, it's a certain type of micro-conversion, you can actually, by increasing micro-conversions, you can actually harm the ultimate conversion. And we've seen that in many cases with multi-step funnels where you can goose one step and harm the end result. So be careful that the tracking is done properly when you set it up so that you can make sure that you can rely on the results and not get, the worst thing about, even worse than not testing, is testing and getting invalid results because you'll bake in bad learning into your organization. All right, let's see. Here's another question. Can KISSmetrics track multiple events together in a single metric? For example, how many people were doing event A and event B? Do you know about that, Lars?
Yeah, basically the way KISSmetrics works is you pass us events on anything you want to track. So this could be people that are clicking on one version of a call to action button as opposed to a different version of a call to action button. And since we're connecting all those events back to individual people, it's really easy to see, to pull metrics on what's actually happening with all of your customers. So you'd be able to see, okay, what is the total event count for this event or this version of the button as opposed to that version of the button. And you might have to set up individual metrics for each button if you have them set up as different events. But it's very easy to look at, to get numbers and conversion rates and all that good stuff, no matter how complex your tracking is and no matter how many events you're trying to keep track of.
All right, great. There's another question here. What is low versus high traffic to know which way to test and how many variations? So I guess that's a follow-up question from what I was saying earlier. And thanks, Kim, for that. Clarify. So a rule of thumb that we use is when you're planning how many variations to test, typically you'll need between 200 to 400 conversions per variation to get statistical significance. And that's the bar we usually set for our tests, is the 95% confidence level for tests, so that we know that the decision we're making is accurate as possible. And so typically you'll need that. So if you can get 200 to 400 conversions within a 2-week period for, if you have 800 conversions in a 2-week period, maybe you want to run 2, maybe 3 variations. And so you can just do the numbers from there. But we'll also want to consider other things. How bad is the page is one thing, and that's obviously subjective. But if we think there's a lot of improvement, maybe we can run more variations, get results faster. All right, so here we go. When tests are insignificant after lots of impressions, how do you know when to call it a tie and stop that test and move on? Yeah, that's a good question, Zach. And there's a blog post on the Wider Funnel blog about the value of inconclusive tests. You should take a look at that. But really, it comes down to a business decision of saying, do we have more ideas to test? And so it's an opportunity cost question. Do we have new things that this test is holding us back from, or can we let it run and see if we can achieve significance or see if it starts to separate? But eventually you'll get to know that. That's a bit of the art of a strategist as well. From experience of seeing all these tests, does this look like it's a test that's moving in the right direction? Does it look like we've got enough traffic? Or are there other tests that we have lined up in the hopper that we think are going to have a bigger impact? And sometimes those are sort of decisions that have to be made based on discussion and looking at all the factors, but because there are no straight rules of how to do that. There's certainly rules of when to prune losing variations, but when they're really tied very closely, it just depends on what else you could be doing with that traffic. Because really, on your website, the way I look at it, your traffic is your scarce resource. And that's your potential for gathering marketing insights. If you can use that scarce resource for a better way to gather an insight that's going to improve your marketing, well, then we should move on to something that's going to give us that insight and not waste that gold that's coming every day with your limited traffic. Okay, let's see. How much traffic do you need to do your testing? Yeah, that's, usually to do, well, you can start testing with any amount of traffic again, but typically when we're looking at an ongoing testing strategy, usually you want to have 30 to 50,000 monthly unique visitors to be able to test on an ongoing repetitive basis and get some good insights that build on each other. But there's no bottom number for when you can start. I mean, it's the tools are now available to make it really economical even for SMBs to get started. But for prioritizing target areas, the higher traffic the better is really the answer. And so it's really an ROI calculation. When is the effort worth the potential improvement? And there are actually ROI calculators on our website that you can download to calculate that for yourself. What's the potential improvement, and what's going to be the ROI for the effort you want to invest in testing? Okay, so we're coming to the end of the hour, and there are a few other questions that are probably good to follow up with personally, and we'll respond to you one-on-one, and we'll make sure that if there are more questions for Lars and KISSmetrics, that we'll pass that on to them as well. We're really looking forward also to, we hope we can do a follow-up blog post and answer some more of these questions. So you want to sign up on the widerfunnel.com/blog to get those answers from the wider funnel perspective. I know KISSmetrics has a great blog as well that a lot of you are probably already subscribed to, and they've got some great content as well. Actually, you know what? I actually wrote a blog post, and I think it's coming out today or tomorrow on the KISSmetrics blog. So not to plug my own content, but check that out too. It's shamelessly promoting. It's a good one. So, and thank you for all of the thanks in the comments, and we really appreciated having you here. And thanks especially to Lars for bringing some great content and tips for how KISSmetrics is doing optimization. And look forward to connecting with you guys again online.